The one thing, they always vote in unison. You don't see somebody that's holding up, I'm going to hold up. And the alternative is hell. You know, the alternative is hell. So the Republicans just have one little thing the Republican Party has to do is get together and damn vote. If you're a single guy or a second guy, and you fight like hell for what you get, and then in the end you have...
In our most recent video, I mentioned that Donald Trump spoke last night at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner about his calamitous global tariff policy. But the speech itself deserves its own video because it was a disaster. Trump was visibly nervous and panicked the entire time, very often lashing out at the Republican lawmakers whose support he needs to effectuate his agenda. It is very clear that on some level, the widespread backlash is getting to Trump, and he's starting to crack. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the subscribe and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play from this dinner again even by Trump's standards. This betrayed his insecurity about his current position. But to really set the stage, I just want to refer to this Axios report. Scoop a dozen House Republicans mold to find Trump on tariff bill. At least a dozen House Republicans are considering signing on to Republican Representative Don Bacon's bill to restrict the White House's ability to impose tariffs unilaterally. Why it matters. It's a significant break with Donald Trump, who has threatened to veto the bill should it pass. Congress Bacon told Axios that 2 Republicans, Jeff Hurd and Dan Newhouse, and 2 Democrats have signed on the bill as co-sponsors. He added, quote, I have 10 others who want to do it, but they want to talk to the trade representative first. Now, this would be the first concerted effort and a belated effort, quite frankly, by Republican lawmakers to try to claw back some of their constitutional authority on tariffs. Let's be very clear. Constitutionally, Congress has infinitely greater power over levying tariffs and removing tariffs than the President of the United States. It's just that they've gotten lazy and delegated that power to presidents, Democrats, and Republicans. They've delegated substantially more latitude than Donald Trump, the person who deserves it the least. Now that they're starting to see the disaster come home, it looks like some Republicans are looking to break rank. So that is the context for this. Trump risks an embarrassment. Yes, he can veto. It's unlikely that Republicans will find the spine to give Democrats a veto-proof supermajority, right? But this would be a slap in the face, a rebuke of Trump by a party that he has tried to break totally and make it into a cult of personality. So with all of that in mind, let's play some of these clips. We're actually going to start with Republican Congressman Tom Emmer, who had a very funny FAWA, or Freudian slip, when he was talking about Donald Trump before Trump spoke.
Not an option. President Trump is counting on us. The American people...
Did you catch that Freudian slip again? Republican Tom Emmer accidentally referred to Donald Trump as president. Hilarious. Now, let's dive into Trump himself and his speech, which once again was a mess. He revealed clear signs of insecurity, even going so far as to lash out at fellow Republicans. Let's start with this moment.
The one thing, they always vote in unison. You don't see somebody that's holding up, I'm going to hold up. And the alternative is hell. You know, the alternative is hell. So the Republicans just have one little thing the Republican Party has to do is get together and damn vote. If you're a single guy or a second guy, and you fight like hell for what you get, and then in the end you have to vote because the policy is phenomenal. You know, they don't get every little ounce. It doesn't work that way. And
So here we have Trump openly panicking about the lack of unity within his own party. He points out how Democrats always seem to vote together, something that actually became more common during the Biden administration than in the past. Ironically, the left, including Democrats, are often describe themselves as a circular firing squad because of their ideological diversity. Progressives clash with liberals, liberals with progressives. It's like herding cats. The left and their political allies are typically more prone to internal conflict. But under Trump's chaotic leadership, even the GOP has become increasingly fractured, experiencing significant infighting over the years. This latest moment really shows his anxiety. He's clearly concerned that his proposal might face public opposition from within his own ranks and potentially fail. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Let's check out this next clip.
And then they say, and by the way, all paper costs 8% of the machines. Why is it that Republican governors aren't going to it, okay? What's going on with our Republican governors? If nothing else, you say, even if it was just the same, and it's not, nothing's foolproof when it comes to voting, but it's pretty close. But it costs 8%. In other words, you can have your election 8% the cost of the machines, and you get an accurate count. So it's pretty amazing.
So there's Trump, once again venting, this time at Republican governors, asking why they don't switch to paper ballots. The truth is, our voting system is already quite secure. But Trump has been insisting for years that the 2020 election was stolen, simply because he can't accept that he lost a free and fair election to President Biden. He even claimed the 2016 election was rigged against him, despite the fact that he won it. It all comes down to his deep insecurity. He just can't handle the reality that he's not invincible, that he can lose, and that he isn't universally adored. Sure, he has a massive cult-like following in the GOP, but Republicans have done both him and their party a disservice by feeding his delusions of infallibility. And yet here he is, once again directing his frustration at fellow Republicans. The irony is, he's one of the biggest sources of division within his party, and he doesn't even seem to realize it.
And that's what's happening, and that is what's happening. It's going to be something, and I'm actually looking forward to the midterms. I really are. We're going to prove that all of their treasonous years of betrayal will not be forgotten, because it's treason. What they did is treason. When they allowed millions of people to pour in through open borders from all over the world, they came. To me, that's treason.
So, once again, a few things to note here. Trump stumbles through his words, calling years of political opposition treasonous, and slipping up with awkward phrasing like "I really are" instead of "I really am." At the very least, it was clumsy and shows he's far from being sharp or verbally agile. But beyond that, he claims he's looking forward to the midterms. Could Republicans do well? It's possible, sure, but it would go against recent political trends. In the 2018 midterms during Trump's presidency, Republicans were politically wiped out as Democrats dominated. Then, in the 2022 midterms under President Biden, despite the GOP having many structural advantages, the much-hyped red wave never arrived. It was more like a soft ripple. In fact, Democrats gained ground in the Senate. Meanwhile, Trump remains deeply unpopular, and his economic proposals could push the country toward a recession. At this point, there's really no solid reason for him to feel confident about GOP prospects. If anything, he's setting them up for backlash. The guy doesn't seem fully with it. Let's check out another clip.
The baseline, we call it. Companies are pouring back into our country with plants. There's a run on sites. There's a run on old plants. Most of them are being ripped down for new plants. They've stopped building in Mexico, 4 or 5 plants, and they're all coming into the United States. I know what the hell I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And you know what I'm doing, too. That's why you vote for me.
There wasn't much enthusiasm in the room, just a weak, delayed round of applause. It was far from energetic, and it clearly showed that, deep down, many Republican lawmakers lack real confidence in Trump. They're not inspired by him. They're afraid of him. They know he holds more sway than they do, not just because of his former role as president, but because of the immense loyalty he commands from the Republican base. In many cases, that loyalty to Trump outweighs loyalty to the GOP itself. So yes, they fear him, not just politically, but in some cases physically. We've heard numerous stories of Republican lawmakers facing threats from Trump supporters after breaking with Mitt Romney, for example, had to hire private security when he was a senator from Utah. After voting to impeach Trump, he and his family were targeted with threats. That's the scary part of this cult-like following. So while they may be too intimidated to speak out, their hesitation and that tepid applause say a lot. They don't trust Trump to pull this off, and that lack of faith is exactly what's fueling his panic.
Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people. China will now pay a big number to our Treasury. This is all taxes. And don't let them keep telling you that this is a tax on our people. I hate that. You know, they say it's a tax. No, often much of it is paid. And hey, look what happened during my first term.
So, a few things to note again. Trump is clearly stumbling through his remarks, practically going syllable by syllable. It's obvious he doesn't have a proper, prepared speech, at least not in the traditional sense. He lacks a coherent policy framework he can refer to when speaking off the cuff. He struggles because, frankly, he's winging it. There's no real substance behind what he's saying, and it shows in his inability to clearly explain or defend the policy he's pushing, which could end up politically hurting his own ally. Now, on the tariffs, tariffs are effectively taxes, and in most cases, the burden falls on American consumers because businesses and retailers generally won't absorb those costs. They pass them along to the buyer. That's just economic reality. Trump seems aware that calling tariffs a tax could be politically damaging, which it is. What he's done, in effect, is implement the largest peacetime tax increase on Americans in U.S. history. And this isn't just hitting the wealthy, which might be politically palatable. This impacts working and middle-class families, which is far less popular. And to make matters worse, China responded with their own 84% retaliatory tariff, which just went into effect this morning. That's what we covered in our first video. So, could they back down eventually? Maybe. But right now, they're not blinking. They're hitting back hard. This is a trade war, and Trump fired the first shot. Let's roll the next clip.
But this is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything, sir.
That's what I'm saying. He's panicking. He's lashing out at Republicans. How dare you? How dare you say that I need your approval or your support or anything like, I'm me, I'm God, I get to do whatever I want. Don't you dare step in my way. And again, this notion that countries are lining up to kiss his ass, I'm sure some are right. I'm sure some are given the recklessness and imputative nature of these tariffs because they effectively have no other choice. But what about the countries that matter most, economically speaking, in terms of their ability to hurt the United States, or that we're dependent on Canada, Mexico, China, the European Union? What about them? We already seen from the China and the European Union that they're retaliating against the United States. And again, Trump is just lashing out. It's so unhinged. Couple more clips we'll play, starting with this one here.
To have that happen to your son. And, there's a bad effect on a family, a bad effect. You okay, Don? I am dead, but I don't understand. They keep tying me to Russia. I don't know anything about Russia. He didn't know a damn thing about Russia. It's a disgraceful situation. That's why we got to kick their asses in the midterms, and we got to kick their asses again in 4 years.
The issue is, Trump himself is making that support even less likely with these disastrous policies. So, here's one final clip. Once again, we see him venting, revealing his insecurity as he complains about the lack of backing he's received. He's clearly nervous that Republicans might break ranks, and honestly, they just might.
4 years ago, if we follow through on this agenda, we will be rewarded with a phenomenal economy and a massive victory at the ballot box in 2026, because we will have a record of triumph like no president has ever had, like no Congress has ever had. They will not be able to even touch your seat. Your seat is secure, and we'll pick up 40, 50, or even 60 seats, and we'll have something that's going to be smooth sailing for years to come. If we don't get it done because of stupidity or a couple of people that want to show how great they are, you just have to laugh at them or smile at them or cry right in their face.
So once again, Trump is clearly rattled. He's visibly nervous. Now, if Republicans were to defy him, sure, he could issue a veto, but that could come at a serious political cost. Imagine the optic. Congress tries to rein in Trump's harmful policies, and he actively blocks them, making the damage worse. It's unlikely, though, that Republicans would have the courage to join forces with Democrats to form a veto-proof supermajority in both chambers. That's what it would take. It's possible in theory. If lawmakers actually voted based on their beliefs and how they truly feel about Trump's tariff policy, they could override him easily and repeatedly. Most members on both sides of the aisle know the policy is reckless, but in reality, most Republican lawmakers are still too afraid of Trump to take that kind of public stand. Still, the fact that Trump is spending so much time attacking fellow Republicans on camera, the very people he needs to back him, really shows how unsettled he feels the pressure, and he's lashing out because of it. Anyway, we'll see how it all plays out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.